Now, about CSF rhinorrhea, this is the third part where we are going to mainly deal with the investigation. In part 1, we have already seen what we mean by CSF rhinorrhea and what are the different causes for it and what is the commonest cause and common sites. In part 2, we have seen the patient complaints and when we examine what are the false positive findings. So, in this one we are going to concentrate just on the treatment alone. So the treatment, so what we have in our mind is, the ENT doctor, what we have in our mind is, we have 2 or 3 things in our mind. One, the patient has walked in with a complaint of nasal discharge on one side of the nasal cavity. That's a complaint. So we have to first confirm that this is a CSF. This is a CSF leak or CSF rhinorrhea. That is one. 2, we want to know the site of leak. 3, how big is the leak. So the first one, whether this is CSF or not. So a patient comes to us, we will give him a small sterile container and a lab form already duly filled, and we'll give to him and we'll tell him that please collect the nasal discharge which is coming on one side alone. Please collect as much as possible, and with this form hand it over to the lab at the earliest. And as soon as you get the report, come to us. Previously, with that nasal discharge, they used to do glucose, the presence of glucose, or estimate the quantity of chloride in that. Nowadays, what we do with the discharge is, we do either presence of beta trace protein or beta 2 transferrin. Any one of these. More sensitive being beta 2 transferrin. Then why are we doing beta trace protein? Because the quantity of fluid needed to test in a case of beta trace protein is very less. Just 1 or 2 drops is more than enough and the result comes very fast. But when you do beta 2 transferrin, the sensitivity is more and it takes some time, the quantity is more, needed is more, sensitivity is more. So first we have confirmed that this is CSF. Once the patient comes back and says, sir, this is the report, and we see that it is reported as CSF, then the next thing which we have in mind, we want to know the site of leak and how big is the leak. The site of leak can be determined by doing a CT scan with contrast and MRI with contrast. CT scan, which includes CT scan of the sinuses and the brain, of course we'll ask high resolution CT scan, and this can be enhanced by using a dye. Same thing goes for MRI scan too. Let me show you some CT scan. This is a CT scan of one patient where he has undergone nasal surgery, and as you see here, so the whole big defect on both sides, see. And this is with the dye metrizamide, and there is a defect here. Now the MRI, this is T2 weighted images. So you can see the CSF which is white in color, and this is getting collected in the nasal cavity. Here, this is a MRI metrizamide. Now there is one more way of doing it, that is with the help of intrathecal fluorescence. Usually this one is mainly used during surgery, that is intraoperatively, peroperatively. So before the surgery, what we do is, we'll do a lumbar puncture and remove the fluid from that. What fluid? CSF fluid from that, and we'll add up a required quantity of fluorescein dye and re-inject it to the same space, and the patient will be made to lay down with the head low, and then after that he'll be taken to the he's already in the operation theatre, and we'll start with the nasal surgery. So when you do an endoscopy in such a patient where intrathecal fluorescein has been injected, when you do an endoscopy, if there is a CSF leak, we can come to know the site of leak from the endoscopic finding. If there is a CSF leak, it will look like the CSF fluid, which is white in color usually, it looks like greenish yellow in color. And to enhance the look, we can make use of blue filters too, with barrier filters too, so that we can see it properly. So with that we can find the site of fluid, and when you start operating we can know that how big the defect is also. So perioperatively, when we do this, we can know the site of leak, and after the surgery also, once it is over, we can have a look. Sometimes some of the surgeons, what they do is, instead of doing an intrathecal injection, with a particular percentage, what they do is with a lesser percentage, they used to spray the fluorescein into the nasal cavity during the operation. So when it falls on when it mixes with the CSF gets discolored with showing greenish yellow in color. That is also possible. So we have seen that with CT scan, with brain and sinus with contrast, the dye, and MRI with or without MRI scan T2 weighted images, and intraoperatively we use intrathecal fluorescein. Now, for the sake of medical legal reason, since the patient has already complained of altered sensorium, altered smell, we would like to do tests for olfaction and documentation also. And the different scans also I have shown you. Now, the most common complication of fluorescein dye injection is convulsion of fits. So, with this I have finished the investigation part of CS of rhinorrhea. So, please do watch the fourth part where I will deal with the conservative management of how do you manage conservatively and how do you manage with this with surgery. And most important, the take home message, the do's and don'ts of post-operative management, the do's and don'ts at home, what are supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do at home. How do you take care of yourself? Thank you so much.